What happens when one man refuses to accept the limits society places on others? For Jake Weiner, that question became the catalyst for ZOOZ Fitness, a space where people of all abilities are not only welcomed, but celebrated. In this conversation, Jake opens up about the personal journey, the challenges, and the humanity behind creating an inclusive fitness revolution that's transforming lives and reshaping an industry. Thank you so much, Jake Weiner, for joining me here on AwareNow to share this space and share your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
Let's get started this way. Every moment can begin a movement. What was your moment, Jake? The one that made you realize that fitness, the industry, wasn't just overlooking people with disabilities, it was leaving them behind. And that you had to do something about it. What was that moment?
So I think I want to rewind slightly before, because I think it helps pave the roadmap to that moment in particular. I grew up doing martial arts and sports, so movement has always been a part of my life in some capacity. Movement is medicine, and I was taught at a very young age that we should move and move often. And I have two brothers, so we were always sports and being really active. So I think just a love of movement and exercise and building community around that was always instilled in me from a very young age. So fast forward to that very moment, I think for me, it wasn't actually in the fitness space. I was working in nonprofit, for-profit schools. I had a couple different jobs, all working with folks with disabilities. And over, a period of, I think, weeks or months, there was a thread line that was through all of those different positions and all of the individuals that I worked with, that I just kept noticing that they were not active. They were not moving their bodies. So it was less so in a fitness space seeing that there wasn't inclusion. It was seeing these individuals not doing anything active, which kind of was the light bulb moment for me. And again, all of this experience that I had at a very young age, and I was at a crossroads where I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. It was, I saw a need. They weren't accessing the gyms that I was accessing. They weren't doing the sports that I was doing, which gave me so much life. And that was the aha moment where I realized something needs to happen. Who's going to do it? Me.
Might as well be you, yeah?
Might as well be me.
That is awesome. So founding something as unique as ZOOZ couldn't have been an easy thing to do. Could you take me back to those early days? I guess I'm wondering, what doubts or barriers did you face, and how did you find the strength to keep going when it felt like the world maybe wasn't quite ready for that?
Yeah, so I think with any entrepreneur, with anyone starting their own business, there are tons of doubts and anxiety and should I do this, imposter syndrome, all of these things came to mind. And, I can remember very vividly when I had this kind of epiphany, this aha moment. I think I was sitting with my wife and my family, and I said, I think I want to start something like this. I didn't know what it was called or what it would look like in the future, but I was like, I want to do fitness. I want to work with this population. And I think my family and friends and everyone subsequently after that kept saying, there's not enough, clients for you. The population's not big enough. I don't know if these folks can work out. There was just a lot of doubt around the population that I decided to work around. And it was nothing really against folks with disabilities. It's just, it was and still is a world that is very unknown. That fitness and disability doesn't really merge. So a lot of the early doubt as a hopeful business owner was do I actually have something that I can be successful at? Can I make money? Are there any clients that are actually going to be a part of this movement? And really for me, it was, I definitely was not easy, but I've always been someone who likes to reframe things. And I like to look at it from a perspective of someone else. And for me in that moment, it was, I have a deep passion for fitness and for helping folks who are otherwise left out of the mainstream fitness world. In particular, I had a deep desire and passion to want to do it. And I really tried to push past all of the naysayers. And it was, it was definitely not easy. And there were many moments, COVID in particular. 2019, we opened our first brick and mortar gym. 2020, not only COVID, but I had my first son. So it was just like a clash of the world aligned that I shouldn't be doing this. But again, it was that mindset. For me, it's again about reframing and mindset. I was just gung ho on making this happen, and I didn't want anything to stop that from coming to fruition, and making sure that our vision and mission for what we wanted to do was possible. And that could only be possible with someone leading the ship.
Yeah. If someone was going to step up and actually do it. It seems to me from what I've read, from what I've seen, that ZOOZ isn't just about building muscle. It's about building confidence, connection, community. Can you share a moment or a story from the gym that captures what inclusion actually feels like?
Yeah, I mean, there's countless stories. I think there's a lot of people, I think, in the industry, and that the term inclusion means very different things for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing for me actually happened somewhat recently. We got the opportunity to do our second Spartan race. So we took about 11 athletes and 16 coaches. And one of the athletes has been coming to us for a few weeks now. And on the course, it was in the desert. We were running through, it was a 5K, so 3.1 miles, whatever it is. It's, you're in the middle of nowhere, and there's obstacles, and it's hard, and it's tough, and it's hot. And he had like kind of a nervous breakdown, and really struggled with, I'm out here all alone. Of course, I have the coaches and fellow athletes with me, but he had this moment of like, what am I doing? And myself and a few other coaches were able to talk him through. And at the very end of that, he comes to me and he goes, thank you so much for this experience, but also thank you for having ZOOZ Fitness. Thank you for making a place that I can feel included, that I don't have to be worried about my anxieties, my stressors. I mean, he also he has challenges in malls and any public places. And ZOOZ is a place that he feels confident. He has friends. He can build muscle. He can do things like a Spartan race. Like, these events are typically not built for folks with disabilities. And someone like him, who has so much anxiety and stress around public places, that was never something on his radar. So I think that's the idea of inclusion for me, is how do we include our athletes who may have certain challenges in a space that is not typically inclusive of this population. Not that not that those folks are not welcome, but it's not advertised, and places are not set up to give them the upper hand to be successful at doing things like a Spartan race.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you bring up a good point, that inclusion, just the nuances of that term, can be completely different for different people. So let's talk about more words then. The word athlete carries so much cultural weight. How have your athletes at ZOOZ redefined that word for you, and maybe for everyone who steps through your doors?
Yeah. So again, I talk about this idea of reframing for me, and words are very powerful. So when I started ZOOZ, the idea of having clients, like the word client never sat well with me. So I always wanted to find a way, how do I find a place? How do I find the words to describe what we want to do? And client just wasn't doing it for me, obviously. So the term athlete for me, when people hear the word athlete, different things come up for different people, but typically it's someone who's athletic, maybe in a professional setting, someone who works hard, someone who looks good. And for me, it was the reframe of athlete is someone for me who works hard, who tries, who does something in the movement space. I think that's an important part of this. But it also, like, in our current culture, right? The term athlete comes up with all these ideas, but for our clients, for our athletes in particular, the same ideas come up. So I want them to start thinking of themselves as athletes, as someone who works hard, someone who looks good, someone who's fit, someone who moves their body. The more that we can instill that sense of psychology of change, yes, you're athletic, yes, you can do more, yes, you're an athlete, yes, you're strong, all of that starts to sink in with you. So it's just really like, it's the power of words. And when we talk about, our athletes in public, outside of the gym space, when we refer to our clients, like all of our athletes, we're all here, say hi to your fellow athlete. Like it just starts to reframe things in our athletes' minds and the parents. If I can share a quick story about the term athlete that really rings home for me. I was at a resource fair. This is probably 8 years ago.
Mhm.
I was talking to parents, and I love resource fairs because I get to interact with people and I get to really explain what we do and how we do things. And there was a father who was taking photos of the event. He comes up to me, he's like, tell me about ZOOZ. So I started explaining about ZOOZ. You know, a bunch of our athletes, we do inclusive fitness, we have group classes, we have privates. And he goes, wait a second. You said the word athlete. Do you train professional athletes? I was like, no, but here's how I describe athlete. These are all our athletes. They work hard. They look good. They're strong. This. And he said, wait, you mean if I trained with you, I could be an athlete too? And he like lit up, blew his mind. I was like, absolutely. You don't have to train with us to be an athlete. If you work hard, you know, all these attributes of what we think an athlete is. And his mind was blown, and he has a son on the spectrum. So it was just like, it was a cool aha moment that like words are super powerful, and someone who doesn't identify with a disability can relate to that also.
Yeah. No, it's such a good point. It's like we talk about so often about the boxes that people check outside in society, you know, for one term or another. But what boxes are we checking for ourselves to say, yes, I do check these boxes. I can be those. You know, so you did some research, and you have a background in psychology, marketing, and as you brought up, judo. Very fascinating combination. I'm curious to know, how do all of those disciplines come together in the way you train, motivate, and empower your athletes? Are there any like through lines between all of those different chapters of you that have brought you here?
Yeah. So, you know, ZOOZ has really expanded. You know, I started ZOOZ 10 and a half years ago with just me, with my ideas. We have an incredible team now that has blown my ideas out of the water. So I can't take full credit to where ZOOZ is now, but I think early on for me, it was about movement in general. We have to move our body in some capacity, and building community around movement. So I think those two words I think are the through line throughout all of those. You know, obviously the psychology of change, how the mind works, how we connect with people, building community, how we interact. And then, you know, the judo component, movement, is obviously something that's really important to me. And I grew up doing sports as well. But I think those two words really encompass how I started and what we do today. Obviously, the movement piece has changed a lot. We've revamped our evaluations and how we train, and a bunch of our coaches have different disciplines and have brought in different movement patterns. So that has expanded greatly in the best possible way. But I think overall, you know, what we say with every single athlete and every single new coach that I bring on, our goal, number one goal, is positive movement. We want a positive movement experience. And I think I've had those throughout my entire life around exercise and movement. I've had really, you know, great coaches. My father was our judo instructor, which good and bad, having a dad who's your sensei. But I think building community and movement has been something that has stuck with us for the past 10 and a half years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about the fact that it's clear that ZOOZ is more than a gym. It's a movement, to your point, the term that you were just using there, movement. What's the most surprising or humbling impact that you've witnessed as this community of yours has grown?
You know, I think for me as an owner, always like, I don't know what you would call it, and maybe it's my own personal insecurities. Like I always like am just so amazed that we keep getting referrals, and I say that like knowing that our program is amazing and our coaches are amazing, and I try to do my best as a leader and owner. But it's just it's always really impactful to just continue to see that we are truly making an impact. And like the bottom line for us is not the dollar amount, like how much we're making. That really, you know, as cliche as it is, that's really not our main purpose. We want to help as many lives as possible. And we see that day in, day out. And we're actually in the process of building a larger gym space to absorb our huge wait list. So it's just, for me, it's the sheer number of people that need our services. We shouldn't technically need to exist, right? Every fitness space should be able to be accessible, should be able to accept folks with disabilities. It's not always the case, and we offer something really unique, I think, to our athletes. But that's something I think always that I think about, as an owner. Obviously, it's a wonderful thing that we have this wait list, but also on the flip side is I can't help them. If they're on the wait list, I can't do anything. So we're always trying to find ways, and obviously we're building out our space. We offer Zoom. So I think that's always like the biggest thing that I like to think about. It's just it's so amazing that we continue to add classes, we continue to add coaches with different skill sets, and that yet still those through lines of movement, positive movement experiences are throughout, and parents are wanting more and more of that.
Yeah. Well, so what does it do to you personally to see someone who once said they couldn't discover that they could? To see someone go from I can't to I can. What has that done for you personally?
Oh, it's the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, I always joke that this is not a job. That this is a calling. If someone asked me like, "Hey, can I buy your business for $100 million, whatever the number is," I would say, "Can I work for you?" Because there's truly nothing I'd be doing other than this. I really feel so lucky and blessed that I get to do what I love to do, which is exercise and movement and inspire. But I can also make a living out of it. I have 2 young kids. I have a wife. So like the fact that I get to make a living and do what I love to do every single day, but every single day I get to see athletes come in who achieve success in a box jump or a sled. They added 5 pounds on the sled push, or they did, a 90-second dead hang. Like all of those things I get to hear day in, day out. And that's what inspires me. And it's the best feeling. I leave with such a immense feeling of gratitude, right? Which is how we started, each and every day. And I just like to share that with our coaches always, that like, it's not a job. If you want a job, don't work here.
Yeah.
It truly is a place that dreams can come true, right? And our athletes day in, day out, each and every session can have a small win if you know how to look for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's huge. Even the smallest wins can mean the biggest things to people. New question. If the entire fitness industry was listening right now to our conversation,
okay,
what would you say to them about what inclusion, in your terms, what it means to you really looks like, and more important, why? Why does it matter?
That's a great question. So I think a lot of people get it wrong about inclusion. For us, it's making sure that everyone has access to everything, right? As simple as that. And that for us means the word no and can't don't exist here at ZOOZ. I hate those words. I tell all my coaches, I tell all the athletes, because it's our job as coaches. And so here's the message. As a coach, it is your job to figure out what the individual needs in that moment. That might mean a regression. That might mean an adaptive piece of equipment. That might mean an entirely different way that you coach and you cue. So I think that's where I think a lot of fitness professionals miss the mark on, is an athlete comes in, what do they need in that moment today? Might mean something very different tomorrow. And I think that's important. It's just this idea of everyone should have access to everything. Nothing should be held back. There shouldn't be a space that, sorry, you can't come here because of X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Right? I feel like it's our job, it's our creative outlet, as coaches, to come up with a way to make it happen for that individual. And it looks very different for everybody on a given day. Even the same athlete, day to day, could look very different. But to be in the moment, what do they need in this moment, and provide accessible movement for everybody.
Yeah, I love that definition. And just speaking to the point you made there about just being present for them, for what they need at that moment, is everything.
Yeah.
Well, in this moment, I would like to say thank you so much, Jake, for the work that you've done, the work you continue to do. Thank you for helping all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, of course.